All right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackburn News, where everything is connected. How y'all doing? Good to see you. Sorry, the show got posted kind of late, and I know I have a lot of wonderful backlighting going on, and that's also very helpful. But it is what it is. We're live on X, on Rumble, on Rockfin, and on YouTube. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Y'all are pretty cool. I missed you. I was out for a good little jaunt around, just around New Orleans, basically. Last couple days. Saw lots of really good bands. Saw some good music. Ate a lot of good food. It's called a vacation, I guess. So, what are those? Something I really haven't done in a couple of years. And it was cool. It was a good time. Anyways, we're here, and we're here to talk about the news. And talk about things in general. Again, I've just got home late last night, kind of scrambling back into getting things together. But we're here. Good to see you, Malcolm. All right. Missed y'all too. Gene Whitworth, or were you watching the Seven Seas video? I was just listening to that, actually. It's pretty good. I like Seven Seas. He does good work. I've been watching a lot of his he does these streams called Lies and Ties. And they're pretty good streams. Where he shows who is connected to whom in the political, corporate, and media worlds, and it's surprising. It's very eye-opening, very surprising who's connected, and a lot of media people out there that most folks consider to be doing good work kind of people. There's a lot of those people that are connected to not so great entities, and it has to make you, he does a lot of tying together of the new independent media folks, Candace Owens, Tim Pool, Michael Schellenberger. He did an entire show on Michael Schellenberger. And remember, I told you Michael Schellenberger was a freaking plant a long time ago. If you guys remember, if you care to remember, years ago, I said Michael Schellenberger was full of it and not a person to be trusted or read or, anything that he's saying to be taken in or taken seriously. And he did an entire show on Michael Schellenberger and who Michael Schellenberger is tied to. But in that same show, he tied a lot of other people that you wouldn't think that might make you rethink who it is you're getting your information from and who it is you're trusting to get information from. It's very eye-opening. And so I recommend it. I highly recommend those shows. Watch his shows and see who's tied to who. Who's tied to the money? Who's tied to the people with the little hats? Et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, we're here and we're back, and I thank you for being here. Malcolm Young says the ties of good versus evil looks like the company web that shows most vegan things are owned by Unilever or right. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, on that note, well, just on a health conscious note. Well, I did see a post the other day that I was going to play on the show that I don't think I made it. It didn't make it into the show, but I mean, and you all know this, right? There's a lot of organic food out there that is not organic. There, I think they were at a Whole Foods or someplace like that, and a lot of the food that they it says organic on the front of the package. If you turn it around, it is not organic, and so you really have to, you really have to be careful there too, right? You really have to source your food, and I would say going for, opting out of prepackaged, pre-made food is your first step in making sure that the things you're eating are from a better source, are cleaner. If you can make your own food with raw materials rather than packaged pre-made materials, you're going to do a lot better. I think things without preservatives, dyes, chemicals, etc., seed oils, etc., sugar, added sugars, etc. Man, the simpler you can buy your food from wherever you're getting your food from, or and then turning it into whatever it is you're going to eat, that is the best way to make sure you're not getting poisoned on a daily basis. I think I'm preaching to the choir, though. I'm sure most of you all know this. AOD smoked a doobie. All right. Enjoy. Oh, Jeffrey Sachs. I'm gonna have to watch that one. I didn't. I just listened to a little bit of it, Gene. That interview you're talking about. I didn't finish the whole thing, so I'm gonna have to start it at the beginning and just watch it all the way through. I just listened to about 5 or 10 minutes of it. Um. Anywho's, let's get into some things. Malcolm says opting out of shop bought food. Full stop. I mean, I can't say that I always avoid it or can always avoid it, but I avoid a lot of it when I can. Most of it I do. I do not indulge in the prepackaged, pre-made things as much as possible. If I do get those things, I try to keep them, the less ingredients, the better. The simpler, the better. Hold on. I was going to. Where is this thing I just had? Yo. We're already 13 minutes into the show. Dang it. Did I not? Oh, here we go. I was going to be really mad at myself for not even. Breaking, and probably not that breaking. 80% of the sunscreen sold in the USA is deemed unsafe for use. So just, I'm sure everybody already knows this. You want to have the simplest ingredients, but golly gee willikers, you can make your own sunscreen with zinc oxide with like 4 ingredients, and you can make it for really cheap, and you can be sure that you're not getting all these chemicals in your sunscreen. And there was a push to try to delegitimize the idea of making your own sunscreen a few years back. Yeah, disregard that. You can do it. Just do it safely. Do it right. Look up the correct recipes and all that kind of good stuff. If you want a recipe, I can send you recipes. If you want to know how I make my own sunscreen, I can let you know. I haven't made my own sunscreen in a while because my house burned down. So I had to go buy some sunscreen with, reading the ingredients, but still, there's too many ingredients already on the sunscreen I'm using. So I'm trying to make my own sunscreen again. Anyways, let's watch this.
They are chemicals and they can potentially...
Research has people a little frightened to use it. There's a new study out that says after just one day, chemicals in sunscreens enter your bloodstream.
Before you grab that bottle of sunscreen, the first thing you need to do is check the ingredients on the back.
They are chemicals and they can potentially be dangerous.
Look at any bottle of sunscreen on the store shelf and it'll more than likely have one of these ingredients.
Avobenzone and oxybenzone are very commonly in your chemical sunscreens.
But a new study finds when you apply sunscreen with those chemicals, along with two other ones known as escamsol and octocrylene, they can absorb into your skin and into your bloodstream.
And more than 80% of the sunscreen products sold in the USA were now considered potentially unsafe for use.
Research has people a little frightened to use it. There's a new study out that says after just one day, chemicals...
I'm probably preaching to the choir. Y'all should know this. Yes, hats and shirts too. I did that a lot of that last year. Instead of wearing sunscreen, I did. You can buy hoodies, or full sleeve, long sleeve with hoods. Shirts, you can buy them pretty thin. A lot of runners wear stuff like that. And I had some thinner, like hoodie material, thinner shirt material hoodies that I would just get in. Whenever I went outside, I would just wear like a full covering and the hood up, covering my face, and a hat if necessary. Sidestep the sunscreen altogether. That's another way to go. Malcolm Young says soap removing our oils is what is causing sunscreen cancer. Okay. So the body's natural oils as a defense. Yeah. You can go that route, but covering up. I told you I used to know a guy that worked outdoors, and he covered every bit of his skin up, head to toe, gloves, face covering, when working outside, because he knew about the UV situation. All right. Where are we going? Sorry. All right, let's just go through. Here's, if you want to know how, one way that they chop down forests, there's several. I want to call them just industrial size asset stripping maneuvers that companies engage in. This is a particularly brutal way of cutting down forests, which is tying a chain to two tractors and then just dragging along the forest floor and just scraping all the trees down. I don't know. That's just educational videos about what industrial foresting does, or clearing land. That's just clearing land probably for cattle grazing or whatever else. Here's more proof that there isn't really. I mean, maybe there's a dehumanization agenda, but there's not a depopulation agenda. There's a dehumanization agenda. This is Elon Musk. It's an existential crisis. Humanity's birth rate is collapsing. Friendly reminder to make more babies. Japan's total fertility is going down. U.S. birth rate goes down. Australia's birth rate goes down. And people are running, with their hair on fire. Oh my God, this is an existential crisis. Sorry, I'm not showing you this tab. Sorry. Or am I? Yes, I am. I showed you that Trump was considering giving people a $5,000 baby bonus, which would probably cause a lot of people to go, can I? Should we? $5,000 to have a baby? Anyways, everybody's like, oh my God, birth rates are going down. It's a serious problem. This guy says, how absurd. Thus far this year, the world population has grown by several tens of millions. 8.2 billion total. Which is true. It's just that industrial nations are facing lower birth rates, mostly because of, so somebody, correctly points out, there's a lot of reasons. There's environmental reasons, there's toxins, there's, things that people have been forced to eat or take. Maybe not forced, but encouraged to eat or take. That drives down fertility. There's endocrine disruptors. There's all kinds of these microplastics. There's all kinds of things that are bringing down birth rates in Western cultures, or right, higher economic activity cultures, right? All kinds of things that could bring down birth rates. There's also, but what's happening is these cultures are kind of imploding. Affordability, job security, housing, childcare costs, lack of support for young families, long working hours, gender role imbalance, climate anxiety, delayed marriage, financial readiness, cultural shifts and priorities. Right. So there's also cultural reasons why people might not have a baby. And a lot of those reasons are financial reasons. Let's see. But, if every country is screaming bloody murder about lowering birth rate, there's not a depopulation agenda. There's a dehumanization agenda. Sure, they want to enslave you. They want to use your energy. They want to discard you. So, bring in new consumers, new workers, new blood. We don't care how long you live or how well you live. But that's not a depopulation agenda. That's just a dehumanization agenda. Get it straight. Let's see. That's interesting. There was a guy on the Door show saying that seed oils prevent absorption of vitamin D in the skin. Okay. See, I mean, there are so many environmental factors around skin cancer and low birth rates, all kinds of things. All right, so there was a big power outage in Europe. There are all kinds of theories around it. Several theories out there floating around why. There might be an official theory even. Let's talk about it. I'm pretty sure everybody heard there was a huge power outage in Spain and Portugal mainly, maybe a few other places that faced it. This is volcaholic, rare atmospheric phenomenon. They're saying there's a lot of solar activity. This is a high solar activity time of high solar activity. So they're saying that's what caused it. Okay, feasible. Yeah, good point, Chad. A reduction in birth rate doesn't automatically mean the population still doesn't grow. Yeah, you're right. Good point. You've been watching Cliff High? Of course you're going to get stranger if you watch Cliff High. Cliff High is a strange dude, but he's very, very intelligent. If you can follow his endless non sequiturs, he is incredibly intelligent. Dude cannot stay on one topic to save his life, but he's a really interesting character for sure. I really like Cliff High. So rare atmospheric phenomena behind outage. Portuguese operator says, we've just heard from REN, Portugal's grid operator. It claims that outage that's affected Portugal was caused by a fault in the Spanish electricity grid related to rare atmospheric phenomenon. REN says that due to the extreme temperature variations in Spain, there were anomalous oscillations and very high voltage lines. All right, so this is the official explanation, I guess. Sure, sounds totally plausible. Says this is known as induced atmospheric variation, which in turn led to oscillations, which cause synchronizations, failures between systems. Yeah, it led to successive disturbances across the interconnected European network. I think parts of France maybe got it too. It's already back on though. The power. This was mostly yesterday. This was happening. So let's hear about some other theories. One is that this was caused by the net zero movement in Europe. Oh shoot, where is it? No. Where'd it go? Oh, another big, well, let's not forget, there's something else I want to cover today. It's very big news. And I forgot that I needed to cover it. Hold on one second. Net zero was blamed for blackout chaos. Here's from, gosh, I really hate when people just put links up. I mean, screenshots up and no links. So helpful. Hold on. Fred says it is not solar. An inconvenient truth for some. Net zero blamed for blackout chaos in Spain and Portugal. It's time to end the nonsense of net zero, which is a threat to economic and energy security. So this is somebody else's take on this. So they're blaming it on a synchronization problem, but some people are saying that the reliance on solar and wind power left Spain and Portugal vulnerable. Okay. Sounds a little doctored, this idea. So Mark Carney won the Canadian election. Somebody said the fascists didn't win. Are you sure? Want to check the facts a little harder? I don't know. I mean, sure. Mark Carney, once head of the Bank of, London and also head of the Bank of Canada, is not a fascist. All right. We'll go with that. This is their power generation mix. Looks like a lot of solar, some wind, which is very little of the entire mix, right? There's lots of biomass. There's lots of nuclear. What is this? Gas is the big one. Imports. What does that mean? Imports. I don't know. This sounds like a narrative spin to me. Anyways. And here is, I think, well, this is the most conspiratorial by far take on why this power outage started, but I've seen a lot of this too. Apparently, Israeli companies' monopolies apparently are part of the, do they control part of the power grid? And wait, I'm just showing this for, what do you think? Possibilities here. Spain hit by massive power outage days after canceling Israel arms deal. Huh. Let's look at this a little more. And let's watch this from Whitney Webb, because this was the somebody saying, when the lights go out, blame Israel as the blackmailed trash in Congress give Israeli companies full control over U.S. infrastructure. Wonder why Texas USA has a third world power grid. I don't know. Let's listen. Come on, Sam.
All sorts of things like that, as well as hospitals.
So an Israeli intelligence guy forms this company and says, we're going to take care of American hospitals, dams, water infrastructure.
Dams come later, but it was first health infrastructure. And they partnered with CISA, that's supposed to protect critical infrastructure, including election infrastructure, but also things like water systems, the power grid, all sorts of things like that, as well as hospitals. And beyond that, it's not just hospitals anymore. As you mentioned, it's expand to dams, it's expand to water systems, and also nuclear reactors in the United States. So you have a foreign intelligence-founded nonprofit being offered access to all of these critical systems in the United States.
How is this being allowed? I mean, we know the deep connections between Israel and the United States. So this goes deeper than that.
Okay, well, maybe. Is there, I was looking for evidence that they does Israel control the power grid in Spain? I mean, they were talking about the U.S., but what does this have to do with the Spanish power outage? I don't know. So maybe, maybe I haven't seen it yet. So, and that is not, that doesn't give this credence or not give it credence. It's just one of the theories that's out there that I'm seeing. That's all. They did cancel an arms deal, which is, you could say, bravo, Spain. I don't think it was days, but I think that was a while ago. Stephen Burns. What is Stephen Burns saying about the power outage? They did cancel an arms deal. They did say that they were not going to help Israel fund what they're doing. Is that why they were hit by this outage? I don't know, yo. I haven't seen the direct connection, and if I do, I'll bring it to you. So there's all the theories on why this happened, or at least that I've seen. There's probably more. We'll check them out if we ever get there. Did you all see that Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's, one of the most prominent accusers, committed what? Well, she's no longer with us. Man. Okay. Stephen Burns says the atmospheric anomaly thing was bull. You know, I mean, so I think some people have been pointing to a looming grid failure as a reason for, you know, like things falling apart, right? To send people into ever more chaos. You know, there's right, the economic crash theory. There's the grid going down theory, sending people into chaos. That was looming. And so when this happened, that did go through my head where I was like, oh, this is a huge blackout in Europe. I wonder if this means anything, or if this somehow is a precursor or who knows? Who knows? Some to think about though, right? Here's Christopher David. Who is Christopher David? I don't know. This man is saying, we're about to face supply shocks and empty shelves. You'd be wise to stock up on essentials now. Purchase all major electronics and appliances for the year if you can. Staples like rice can be purchased in 20-pound bags, and it lasts forever. Panic buying is days away. He's saying this on the 27th, 2 days ago. Days away. So today is days away, a couple days away. This is somebody showing a Smart and Final in Las Vegas, saying that there's a lot of empty shelves. Okay. What do you guys think? I mean, people generally say this every, couple of weeks. I would say have one eye open for the fact that you might have to take care of yourself for a couple of weeks without power or access to ATMs or whatever. If there's a grid failure or an economic collapse, biblical proportions, what are you going to do in this? What would you do in those circumstances? Yes. Maybe be prepared for something like that. However, I'm not trying to discourage people from being ready at all. I would encourage to be ready. However, I will point out that people say this about every 2 weeks. Oh, next week it's going to be all over. Everybody's going to be eating, living in dumpsters and alleys, trying to figure out what they're eating next. Maybe their pets. People say that all the time. I don't know. You kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, because I've heard, as far back as I can remember, 2014, 2015, people saying like, next week it's all over. The economy's going to collapse. There's going to be a debt jubilee, and we're going to have to rebuild from the ground up. And that was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. None of that has happened since. That's not an argument for that continuing to stay the same, that nothing will ever happen. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, be ready for something, but you can't really live on the edge of panic all the time. can't live that way. You have to actually go forward, because 10 years is a long time to live, sell all your stuff and live in a box. If that's what you want to do, and I'm not necessarily, Malcolm is preparing for the end times. And I think, that's a worthy thing to do, not discounting that or discrediting that in any way, shape, or form. I think that's a worthy thing to do. Getting ready for things to be very different. I think being ready for things to be very different is a really good way to go. But, if you are, I don't know, a lot of people are living, have families and kids they have to take care of, and, living like semi-normal lives. And if, and you have to do things in the world and continue, like you kind of have to do two things at once. You have to kind of live in the real world, which is the fake world, but this is the real world, the ones they constructed and told us is the real world. You have to adapt and know how to, manage and keep going in that world. But you also have to have one step outside of that and be ready to live in a completely different world. And it's up to you, what percentage of the mix you want to do with, living over here, living off grid, living, having a car and going to a job every day. And, you have to figure out, how are you going to work this? What works for you? There's actually no right answer. There's absolutely no right answer. There's the best, what you think is the best thing to do is absolutely the best thing to do for you. Do that, do that thing. There's a lot of people that watch this channel that are already off grid, or, mostly off grid, mostly doing their own thing, growing their own food, living out in, the hinterlands. And, it takes a lot of work and a lot of courage to do that. So, bully for you. And there's a lot of knowledge in the chats here from people who are doing stuff like that already. And I think, go over to Telegram and share that knowledge, if you're so inclined, or ask questions in Telegram, t.me/Black Bear News chat. If you want to go over there and ask questions, and maybe if there's, somebody from the chat here can go over there and answer questions like in a better way than I could. So, yeah. Did something happen to Sam Mitchell? He fell off a roof? Shinola, man. That sucks. All right. I'm going to have to send Sam a text. I didn't know that. Oh, man. I've been out of the loop for a couple days. That sucks. That really, really sucks. I will send Sam a text in a moment. Fred says, everyone around here is a nutcase. Community is not the answer. All right. Schultze says gold, guns, and a getaway plan. All right. Real quickly, yeah, the story about Virginia Giuffre dying is a pretty, man, it's a gut punch. When I saw this, I was like, man. So, still no justice. Still doesn't seem like the people who are involved in the Epstein thing are being exposed or taken down. But hey, the accusers are. This is Virginia Giuffre posting from her account. I am making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. Hold on, you guys can't see this. I've made this known to my therapist and GP. If something happens to me in the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted. Wow. And this, who's the account that posted this? Someone posted this picture and said, karma. My God. What the heck? Sabby Sabs. Remember, she said she was fighting for her life. One of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent abuse survivors dies by suicide. Other Epstein victims credited Giuffre with giving them the courage to speak out. And again, I will bet right now, cash money, that the people that actually believe this story that she committed suicide are probably could be counted on like one hand, if even less than that. And this is the time when everyone on the planet, Democrat or Republican, is all a conspiracy theorist. And because that's smart money right there. Anyways, my God. Yeah, Melinda Gates saw some shit. I'm sure. Sure they all see some shit. And you got to decide whether you're going to, help the shit or get out of the shit. That is heart-wrenching and definitely it's a horrible story. Turin Tirambauer says people have been saying it's the end of the world coming since 10,000 BCE. Yes. Prepping is good, but no need to be afraid. Yeah. The constant state of fear is what the oligarchs want everyone that's doing. Sure. I mean, there's also something to be said for just, right? When you stop listening to the news, things can suddenly seem a lot less dark. Who was it? Henry, what was his name? That used to be in the chats here a long time ago. I forget his last name. He used to get in the chats and he'd be like, hey, if you stop hanging out on social media and YouTube all the time, things seem a lot less scary, right? Like your perception is being shaped by being in contact with this information, right? In some ways, you can be your own worst enemy by being, driving yourself into a paranoid frenzy. And that's true too. You have to be of this world, but not of this world. Do what you can, but if you're going to take things too seriously, then your mental health might suffer. And that's probably one of the things you should take care of. This is interesting. Amazon decided that they will put a tariff price next to every item they sell, depicting how much of the price of that good is the result of Trump's tariff. Yeah, interesting. And the White House completely loses it because they did this. They are saying this is a hostile and political act by Amazon. They're saying that they're equating this with treason or domestic teaism. Americans have the right to know. It's not political, it's logical. Well, if it's just fact-based and truth-based, that's just information, right? What's wrong with information? Well, we don't want you. We don't want people to have information about things they should know about, because then we can't do all the things we want to do, right? Can't have the slaves be reading now, do we? We don't want to have people have book learning now, do we? They might be reading stuff, and then they might be knowing stuff, and then if they know stuff, then they know who be doing stuff, and then we're going to have to stop doing it. All right, let's watch this.
It was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product. So isn't that a perfect crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China who is going to have to pay for these policies?
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile and political action by Amazon. And Secretary, if you have anything.
Okay. Who knows what that's all about? There's so many different takes around the tariffs and what they mean for people economically. And I'm still, I'm willing to look or listen to all ideas about what they mean or what they're doing. I can tell you that a lot of businesses are being hurt at the moment and having to shut down quite a bit of their operations because of the tariffs. Some businesses, not every business. A lot of people are saying the ports, because of the tariff. I think the guy that was talking about, load up on rice right now. Get your guns and your gold and your guns. The guy that was talking about him, I've seen a lot of people referring to the fact that the shipping lines are shutting down because of the tariffs. It's been a week or maybe 2 weeks? Ish, 10 days. Are we still days away from the actual impact of all of this and where everything is going to fall apart and nobody's going to have food? Maybe. But currently I have not seen a thing in my own life. And that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean that nothing is happening at all. I'm just saying personally, on a personal level, I haven't seen one thing be affected other than one person I know whose business that they are operating in is being impacted, negatively by the. This is the only instance where I'm seeing in my personal life, I know one person whose business that they are employed in is being impacted by the tariffs. So, and I assume other businesses are being impacted by the tariffs in that way. As far as like going to the grocery store and not being able to find things and see, I haven't seen any of that yet. That doesn't mean that's not happening or not about to happen or not imminent. It probably is imminent. I just haven't seen really a lot happening yet. Okay. She's the worst I've ever seen. She is pretty bad. She's pretty horrible. I know people used to talk about, what's her name? The Biden's press secretary, she was pretty horrible. She was pretty bad, but Carolyn Levitt is not an upgrade on any level from, what's her face? Jean-Pierre, or I forget her name. She was bad, but Carolyn Levitt is super bad. Equally bad. All right, guys, we're winding down. If you like this show, I've got maybe one or two more things to show you. Creative Experiment says wacky coming in 90 days. Wacky coming in 90 days. Maybe so. Be ready. Oh, KJP. Yes, yes. Thank you, Turin. Yeah, she pretty much sucked. But nobody, everyone that has replaced her in the Trump administration has been like, oh my God. Just, yeah, I can't say anything other than horrible. If you guys support the show, you want to support the show, there's lots of ways to support the show. Please support the show. Please consider supporting the show. There's lots of links in the description box of whatever platform you're watching on. If you're on X, there's a link tree on my profile. All the usuals are there: Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Zelle, Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-Fi, etc., etc., etc. Patreon, Substack. We'll be going back to Substack this week on Friday. We'll be doing Substack Friday. So, keep an eye out for that. Glad to be back in the saddle. Smart and Final in Las Vegas yesterday. Did I show this? I thought I just showed this. Empty on many item series in the same black container to cover up the shelves. Who knows? Did I just see this? I'm losing my mind, I think. I thought maybe I just showed this. Or maybe I was just watching this. What is wrong with my brain? Sorry. Oh, lastly, this is interesting. Catherine Austin Fitts was together with Tucker Carlson. All right. But Catherine Austin Fitts is talking about... Hold on. Before we get here, I got two other posts. No, we'll just stay here. Catherine Austin Fitts is talking about how there's so many secret underground like cities. And this has been known for a long time. This has been this is a known thing. And she has been saying this for years. I mean, I've been following Catherine Austin Fitts for at least 10 years, if not more. And she's been saying this the entire time. So let's watch her. She's talking to Tucker Carlson about underground cities called DUMBs. She did a 2-year study and estimated that there were 170 of these underground cities with a transportation network connecting all of them. I've seen enough, I think, enough things about this to, I believe this is going on. Let's watch this.
But I think that whether it's a pole shift, magnetic pole shift is one of the, theories of what causes these events. But there is a history of near extinction events. And one of the things that I've looked at, because I'm trying to figure out, between fiscal 1998 and fiscal 2015, there were 21 trillion of undocumentable adjustments in the U.S. government. If you go to our website, missingmoney.solera.com, we have years and years of documentation, including the government financials that show this. And so the question is, where's all this money going? And one of the things I've looked at in the process of looking at where all this money is going is the underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure.
We don't have high-speed rail, and why our infrastructure is crumbling. Our above-ground infrastructure is absolutely crumbling and falling apart. Because there's just all the money's going into the underground transportation system, I guess. I don't know. Maybe.
I think there are many more. So,
in the United States?
In the United States, and all over the world. But from 2021 to 2023, I took one of the smartest subscribers in the Solari Report network, and he and I spent 2 years collecting all the data and all the allegations on underground bases. And then we systematically went through and tried to estimate our guess. This is totally a guess of how many underground bases, both underground in the United States, but also underground under the ocean around the United States. And our estimate was 170 with a transportation network connecting them.
And what would be the purpose?
The purpose, if you thought you were going to get a near extinction event, so there, to me, there are two purposes. You have so many activities going on that you need to keep secret, that you're basically building the capacity to, for example, if you're doing a secret space program, you need to platform it from, things that can't be seen. But I think if you're worried about a near extinction event, that's.
So I know nothing about this other than my only window into it. I knew a contractor who worked on one in Washington, in the city of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I remember him telling me about a power box, like a transformer box on Constitution Avenue that he told me, because he worked on it personally, was actually the exit, the egress from White House. That was kind of by vehicle. I thought that was, I was like, really? He goes, oh yeah, no, I installed it. I know. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy that in the middle of this big city where I was on Constitution Avenue every day, that you could build something like that without me knowing it. Under the VP's house at the Naval Observatory, same thing. I think most people know that. Next to my brother's house on Macomb Street in DC. But that's, I always thought that was like preparation for nuclear war. Like, I didn't really think about it that much.
Some of it is, it's preparation for catastrophe.
So, but you think that there are facilities like that in other places outside DC?
Oh, yeah. So if you're interested, we have a great interview. I did an interview of Richard Dolan on underground bases on the Solari Report, and it's sort of an introduction to the topic, and it's based on a lot of the research of a guy named Richard Souter, who is very hard to interview. So Richard kind of went through all the material, and clearly it's, I don't know if you ever saw, Washington Post did a project. It was in 2010 or 12 called Top Secret America. And one of the reporters, it was a team of 2 reporters, one of them put together a database of all the different top secret installations that had been built in the country, including since the Patriot Act. And what you saw was just this explosion of money in building so many, both underground and above ground facilities.
Okay. And there's way more, from her. You can go back and dig through her archives and interviews. She talks extensively about this stuff. Steph C says, remember all the talk about Elon boring holes under LA? Well, they are doing a lot. They are doing a lot of, they're building the subway out in LA, or the trains, and some of it is underground and some of it is above ground. So they are actually boring holes in LA. But who knows, it's a good point, because obviously that technology can be used for other things. All right, we're about done here. An F-18 fell off of a aircraft carrier. Just fell off. Apparently, the aircraft carrier made a hard turn to evade Houthi fire. Fell overboard. An F-A-18E fighter jet and tow tractor fell overboard off of the USS Harry Truman and has sunk in the Red Sea. Those things cost a lot of money, each one of those jets. Max Blumenthal says, after losing 21 MQ-9 Reaper drones, the U.S. has now lost an F-18 jet in a failing war to defend Israel's ability to commit genocide in Gaza. The U.S. has failed to restore freedom of navigation in the Red Sea, cannot suppress Yemeni missiles or drones, and is massacring civilians. Whoops. What do those things cost? Like $5 billion a piece or something? Maybe it's not that much money. They cost a lot of money. $60 million jet. Okay, $5 billion was an overestimation. Thanks, Extra Bullet. Thank you. I knew that. I knew immediately when I said it that was an overestimation. But let's see. Let's look it up. I know you just told me $60 million. Cost. F-18 jet cost. Let's see. What do they say on? Cost ranges from $67 million to $73 million per aircraft. Yikes. I think I was thinking about the entire program cost, several $1 billion. The F-18 program. So yeah. 60 million, $70 million. $7 million. That's it. Whoops. How much do those drones cost? $1 billion. Yeah, that's what I thought, Schulte. I was like, that they didn't. When they said it fell overboard, I was like, really? It fell overboard? I don't believe. Honestly, Schulte, I'm with you. I don't believe that story for a second. I don't believe it just fell overboard for a second. No. I think they got it, they took it out, and they just don't want to admit it. So the official story is it fell overboard, but I don't believe that. They just don't want to admit that they lost an F-18 in this battle. Plus, I don't understand how it could do that anyways, but maybe if the wind catches it just right, it does have wings, so I don't know. The drones are $30 million. Yeah, I saw that they're pretty expensive too, so they, it's a pretty good price tag so far on this battle with the Houthis. I think let's see. Man, I'm gonna have to save the other. I got a couple more things, but I'm gonna have to save them for tomorrow because I gotta sign off, y'all, and get on to some other things today. But y'all, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. I don't know if I have anybody to thank today. Not sure. Lou, as always, thank you for the PayPal. Lou Johns, appreciate you, man. I think that's about it. Haven't seen anybody else come through. Extra Bullet says the U.S. lied about a jet getting capped once already. Yeah, I didn't believe that story for a second. But maybe, I just it's just hard to believe. I think they probably took it out. They probably took it out, and they don't want to admit that they took it out. So many things they be lying about. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. Same bat channel, same bat time. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your day, and peace.
This old man pushing a shopping cart with all of his possessions, all of his possessions. This old man pushing a shopping cart with all of his possessions, all of his possessions. He was a veteran, an American flag in the bottom of his car, from the nation that he had served. I said, what happened? Were you a victim? Medical greed, administrative oversight, out of mind, out of time. He said, I still love my country, even though it doesn't love me. He said, I still love my country, even though it doesn't love me. Ooh, 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 ooh. Said the bottom of a bottle was my salvation when I couldn't get no love from my own nation. Said the bottom of a bottle was my salvation when I couldn't get no love from my own nation. 2 tours in Iraq, and then he sent back to deal with the demons in his soul. His family tried hard to understand how this once loving man could put holes in the walls with his very own hands. He said, I still love my country, even though it doesn't love me. He said, I still love my country, even though it doesn't love me. Ooh, ooh, oh, oh. Then there came the day when they said, you got to go.